So you have a dream of home ownership. With 2024 just around the corner, I thought I would do a little holiday special for you. So I got 12 items that you can do to prepare yourself for when the time comes. My name is Adam Clark. This is Living in Spokane, Washington. And today we're going to go through each and every single item in detail so that you're well prepared for your move up here to Spokane, Washington. Let's get to it. Okay, for our first item on the list, we're going to be talking about down payments and saving up for them. I know this is one of the biggest stressors for my clients seem to experience when it comes to home ownership is saving the money that it takes to own a home in the first place. Now, knowledge is power here. So with the vast majority of financing programs out there, you're going to see anywhere from down payments from 3% all the way up to 20%. So you need to get familiar with the various products, see which one's right for you, and then that's going to tell you roughly what down payment you need to expect and save up for in order to get into that home. Now, each product is different here. FHA loans, roughly 3.5%, but I've seen a 0% down FHA loan. I've seen 10% down FHA loans. Conventional loans can literally be all over the place depending on the institution and their rules and requirements. And then you have things like VA loans that could be 0% down. I said that right. If you're a veteran, your VA loan can get you into a home with no money down, which can make it an excellent product for you if you qualify. Now, when saving for a down payment, one of the major things that you're going to need to know is roughly the price of the home that you want to purchase. Now, in Spokane, last year, roughly the average home price was about $449,000. So you're going to be a percentage of that list price is going to be your down payment that you're going to need in order to close on your home. Now, this is one of those things you don't want to sit on the fence for. Homes are increasing in value year over year. So in fact, just so you know, homes increase in value here in the Spokane area from October to October, depending how you measure the metrics, is somewhere between 4 and 7%. So the longer you wait, the further that goalpost gets. Don't be the one that gets priced out of your home because you waited too long. Be sure to make your sacrifices now, save aggressively so that you can get in that home and get a piece of that appreciation working for you instead of against you. Moving right along on our list, we're going to go into get your credit in check. Make sure that you download your credit report from services like annualcreditreport.com. And I'm going to be listing all the resources, by the way, below this video somewhere in the description. So you can be on the lookout for any of those valuable information resources, but download your credit report. Make sure you look into it to see if there are any errors that you can have removed from your credit report altogether. And then those that are truly your debts, you want to pay those down or pay them off completely so that you can improve your credit score. Now, what I typically see with my clients is credit scores ranging somewhere in the 740s gets you the absolute best interest rate. So that's the goal, right? So you want 740 or above or as close to that as absolutely possible, but it never hurts to know where your credit is at so you don't have any sort of latent issues or things that come up at the last minute that you didn't know or foresee, and then you're wildly disappointed. Just remember right now in Washington State, the average credit score is about 696 points. 696 is enough to get you into a home, but we're always going to be aiming for that higher target so that we can give you the best interest rates that are absolutely possible, especially when we're living in a time of really high interest rates compared to what we've been used to in the past. And interest rates have literally more than doubled in the last 3 or 4 years, somewhere in the 3% all the way into the 6 and even 7%. So these things absolutely matter when it comes to the amount of affordability and the amount of home that you can ultimately get financed for. So we want to be very clear, targeted, and specific about working on these factors so that we can get your payments as low as possible so that your overall affordability is as high as possible, giving you the most options of homes at your fingertips. Moving right along, speaking of really understanding what kind of home that you want to be in the price point for, you need to get familiar with our local housing market. Be sure to use sites like Zillow or realtor.com or homes.com in order to get familiar with our local marketplace, with the types of homes and the types of neighborhoods that you may be interested in. And then that will give you a good idea of the price point of homes that you're going to be looking at when you do your home search. And like I said, keep in mind, our home prices are increasing over time. time. And in the last year or so, they increased somewhere between 4 and 7%. So when you get here, depending on when you get here, that may have been a sliding scale slightly. So account for that when you're doing your research. Another great way to understand your market is get your real estate agent, get them on the MLS, the multiple listing service, which has the absolute best, fastest, and up-to-date information that you can possibly get, and have them pull homes in your neighborhood in roughly the size, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, sort of the demographic that you're going for, and have them pull up homes that sold in the last year, 2, or even 3, so that you can kind of see the trends for yourself. This will really help you understand where the market is going, so that you will know what's best for you and your family when it comes to doing a strategy of the home search. What I mean by that is sometimes if you have an infinite timeline, that could be your worst enemy, because then you don't approach the process with any sense of urgency. When that happens, if you have a market like we had over the last 2 years, home prices can get away from you before you're ready to actually pull the trigger. I don't want that to be you. Like I said, I'm here to help fulfill your dream of home ownership, and the last thing that I want is for that to slip away from you because we waited too long. Another great resource to get real estate data is the Washington Center of Real Estate Research. Again, I'll link that below for you. Go ahead and look into that so you can get a very good idea of the very specifics of specific neighborhoods that you want to look into, so that you can see the overall trends in the specific markets that you'll be looking at. This can be vastly important because if you're in love with a neighborhood, but you're looking at this process as an overall long-term investment, if you have a slow growth neighborhood, then that might be one of those things, one of those factors that determines your overall choice versus maybe a neighborhood that has a more aggressive growth trend. Those are just the things that you'll want to look into so that you're making a well-informed choice for your family. Next, you got to create a realistic budget. I'm not saying you can't buy the things that you want, but doing so may shoot yourself in the foot. What I mean by that is you need to factor in more things than just the mortgage payment alone. You have the mortgage payment, you have property taxes, you have mortgage insurance depending on your down payment and mortgage product. And you got maintenance costs. Maintenance costs is one of those things that I find my clients almost never factor into their family budget that they really, really should. Because if you're maximizing your financing and you're absolutely strapped for all household income coming in goes towards household expenses, an unexpected maintenance item can absolutely be devastating. So for maintenance, what you want to remember is the rule of 1%, which means expect maintenance costs and repairs to roughly be 1% of your home's value per year. So a $250,000 house will have $2,500 in repairs roughly. It's information like this given to you by experts like myself that help people relocate every single day. They can really help it so that you make sure that you are not getting yourself into a situation that you ultimately will regret. Property taxes are another one of those things that often get overlooked. So in Washington State, we have a property tax of roughly 1%, or in Spokane County specifically, it's roughly 1.2% of the assessed value of the home, which is different than list price, right? So you need to look at the assessed value and list price as separate items, and they don't seem to really be correlated with each other much at all. But typically, your average Spokane resident pays about $2,900 a year in property taxes. Next, I keep saying it over and over again, and I can't emphasize this enough. These are the X factors that will determine whether or not you're satisfied with your home purchase, or if you have any sort of lingering doubts and or regrets, depending on your situation. That is researching the neighborhoods that you want to be in. This is vital, so important when it comes to schools, when it comes to amenities, when it comes to commutes to work, all of those things. And even more things like crime rates, distance to the grocery store and or Costco, neighbors that you're going to be living by, access to the airport and good arterial roads, and access to entertainment. This is going to be your life. If you're somebody that likes to go out on the weekends, you want to make sure that it's not a pain and a hassle to do the thing that you love. For me, myself, I always want to double check to make sure that I have access to a good gym or some sort of workout facility nearby, which is one of those things that I had to learn the hard way when I used to have a 5-minute commute to the gym, and then that turned into a 25-minute commute to the gym, which radically changed my morning routine, and I had to adapt to that situation. It's one of those things that I wish I would have looked into before purchasing the home. Now, I have 2 two great resources when it comes to doing neighborhood research. One of those is neighborhoodscout.com. That will give you great information on crime rates and specific data about the neighborhood itself. Another is the Washington Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. That's a mouthful, or OSPI for short. That will give you good data about the specific schools and the neighborhoods that you're looking at so that you can make a well-informed choice for your family if that's ultimately a place that you want to send your kids. Next, I got a special one for your first-time home buyers out there. You might want to look into attending a home buyer education class. Now, details about this can be found at the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, linked below. And it's a good class to attend because they're going to teach you about the home buying process, financing, and everything in general. They'll really help give you first-time home buyers out there, get you up to speed so that you can at least have a somewhat familiarity of the process that you're about to get into, because it's a lot. Now, the program itself is called the Home Advantage First Mortgage Loan. Now, why that's important to you? So this is a first-time homebuyer specific program ran by Washington State that can give you special interest rates and help with down payment assistance if you qualify. Now, the qualifications for this program are, one, you need to attend one of these official classes so that you can get your certificate, which needs to be within the last 2 years. All borrowers that are going to be on the paperwork need to not exceed the income limits of $180,000 in total. And then you need to meet with a program certified loan officer and make sure you qualify for a home loan in general. That's going to be any FHA loan, VA loan, conventional loan, or rural housing services, RHS. If you meet all of those, then you may qualify, which will help you with, like I said, possible down payment assistance and a special interest rate for your first-time home buyers out there. So this is a very cool opportunity for you to go ahead and get a leg up on this process, something that is very necessary because a lot of you first-time home buyers obviously don't have a house to sell and a giant mountain of equity to help you with the home buying process on your next home. So you need to be seeking these special types of advantages anywhere that you can so that you can get a competitive edge. Next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to consult some real estate professionals. That's going to be some financial experts, some real estate agents, obviously, and some loan officers, hopefully. Real estate is a difficult, multifaceted process that is constantly filled with hiccups and hills and things to trip over. It is a very difficult thing to navigate on your own, which is why in the last year, 87% of people who ended up buying a home ended up using a realtor for their services because these things can be difficult to navigate on your own. You don't have to go about it on your own. You can have somebody at your back who's your advocate and support system who ultimately can explain the process to you so that you feel comfortable moving forward. Now, it's that explanation process here that I'm talking about that's really important in this step. You want to make sure that you have a good affinity with your real estate professionals, especially your real estate agent, who tends to be like the head coach of a team, who kind of organizes and orchestrates the entire process from a bird's eye view, making sure that everyone's doing their job and that we're moving the process forward at all times, while simultaneously making sure that you're well informed, that you're signing all the documents that you need to on time, that we're not holding ourselves open to any legal liabilities, etc., etc. The jobs of a realtor are absolutely vast, and we'll get into that in a second. But what you want to make sure is that you feel comfortable with this person, that they have a communication style that works for you, that they have a process and systems in place that make sure that nothing gets missed, that there's a bunch of checks and balances in place. All things are to ensure that you have a smooth home buying process. Now let's get into some of the services that a realtor does for you, because I find that many of my clients, even though they know they need an agent to buy a house, they're very unfamiliar or unsure even exactly what the nature of the job entails, what a real estate agent does. And I think right now is a good opportunity to address this so that you guys kind of understand what we do for you guys on your behalf. First and foremost, we have our real estate license, which holds a lot of legal liabilities and also allows us to practice a very limited scope of law, which is our real estate contracts themselves. This license also comes with MLS Access, Multiple Listing Service, which is the most up-to-date network for homes being bought and sold on the market, updated continuously and constantly. Sometimes sites like Zillow.com aren't updated for days at a time. A lot of you out there have stories or firsthand experience experience of seeing a home on there that you get excited about. You call in to ask about it, and sure enough, it is under contract to be sold and or already sold, yet it's still sitting there. Now, a lot of these public facing sites do this on purpose because they want to capture as much public lead sources as possible, because ultimately that's how they generate revenue to realtors, by selling these leads and these people searching for homes, their information back to them. Realtors can cut out all that nonsense. You get accurate, up-to-date information with our MLS services that we have because of our real estate license. We handle all the paperwork. Now, when I got started in real estate back in the day, a purchase and sale contract was roughly about 12 pages long. Today, because this is always a moving goalpost, it's roughly about 21 pages here in the state of Washington. So these things get more and more complex with more and more addendum being added. And normally this is to protect you and the sellers in order to make sure that no one is committing any sort of crimes and protecting you guys from legal liability. But this is a moving goalpost, and it's one of those things on why we have continuing education requirements to maintain our license, to make sure that we're the most up to date on the contract and its inner and outer working, so that we are familiar, so that we can be the ones that advocate for you and hold a lot of legal liability on your behalf. Honestly, we are the real estate experts. This is what I do day in and day out. Unfortunately, sometimes I get a potential client who thinks that they know more than I do because they bought and sold homes before. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't care how many homes you bought and sold in your lifetime, unless you're a realtor or have your license of some sort. Chances are that I've helped families move, buy, and sell more homes in the last month in today's marketplace than you have in your entire lifetime. It's just more times at bat. My knowledge and expertise cannot be understated, and is absolutely valuable for you, so to make sure that you are not getting screwed over when it comes to the negotiation process. Which brings me to our negotiation skills. I negotiate real estate deals every single day. This is what I do. I also come from a used car sales background, which really taught and equipped me with the art of negotiation itself. Any of you that ever went and bought a car at a used car dealership knows that oftentimes you end up paying way too much for the dang thing because they're just better at negotiating than you are. It's not your fault. It's just like I said, it's more times at bat. They do this day in and day out, and for them, sitting at that uncomfortable negotiation table isn't that uncomfortable. Same goes for me in this real estate process. I'm able to stay unemotional and separate from the deal itself, and then I can just negotiate in your best interest on your behalf to get you the best deal possible for our situation. Another thing an agent does is it separates you from the sale. You're one step removed. Buying a home is a very emotional process for most individuals. A home is where you live. It's your center of gravity. It's your number one asset on average that you own. You start seeing yourself living there. You start seeing your family living there and gathering around the table. This is an emotional process. A realtor is able to step in there and be emotionally distant from the process, stay objective, stay rational, and make sure that we're doing things intelligently and smart. Last thing that you want is to get caught up in the process, get emotionally upset or angry or too excited, and then you oversee something major, which can come to bite you in the end. Part of that emotional distance is, and our experience allows us to see potential problems that you may not be aware of. I go inside new homes every single day. I know what a typical home looks like from the inside, and I know what is atypical in a home. So something that you might see that you might be worried about, I could tell you either A, perfectly fine, perfectly normal, not a big deal, we can take care of it, or B, definitely something that we need to look into, either have an expert or pass on this one and we'll keep looking in the marketplace. Another thing of value that we provide is that we are in network with each other, and oftentimes what I can find is that I will have access to homes that are not even on the market yet, just from the amount of realtor relationships that I have in network. I oftentimes know what's coming on the market long before it actually hits the market, just via conversation and networking with the people and my coworkers around me. This could be an excellent opportunity for you. I've actually sold multiple homes this year this way to people directly, circumnavigating the market, getting them right into a home that they never would have known about or had access to if it wasn't wasn't for my networking. In a competitive marketplace, this can absolutely make the difference between home ownership and just being left out. Another part of our job is to educate you on the home buying process. Like I said, it is complicated. I'm here to guide you through it. Rest assured that everything's going to be okay, and that I just want you guys to know that I have 100% success rate of every single client that I've worked with that has followed my process and stuck with me throughout it. It's only when people deviate from my process and don't stick with me is that we ultimately come into failure. Sometimes this isn't about getting exactly that home. It's about making sure that we stick to the course and we get you the next great home because it's just around the corner. And again, you have to stay emotionally distant from the sale itself in order to be able to have that cool head on your shoulders and make sure that we're focusing on the end goal, which is your home ownership. I'm here to fulfill your dream of home ownership and nothing else. And that is one of those things that I always keep in mind, and or your other goals that you tell me that are important to you. And I'm always focusing on that we're achieving those metrics and standards of success. Like I said, we also help you mitigate your exposure to legal risk. There are a lot of people out there still trying to scam people, still trying to tell you, oh, you don't need an agent. You can just work with me and our contracts directly. You are opening yourself up to a whole can of worms that you don't even know about. We hear about scams and scam artists every single day, and we're well informed of them. We know what to look for, and therefore we can help you avoid those pitfalls when it comes to this. We also have professional network services, especially for those of you that are relocating from out of town. I know a ton of local lenders, local contractors, local inspectors, local title reps, local escrow officers, local real estate attorneys, you name it, I know them. I got a long list of professionals that I have gathered and accumulated over the last 15 years of being in business that will help us make sure that we are covering all of our bases when it comes to your specific situation in the home buying process. I want to make sure that nothing gets left behind, that we're making a well-informed choice that is ultimately going to serve you, and that at the end of the day, when you move into your new home, it's nothing but smiles because we did the work and we did it right. All right, so my next tip is for you sellers out there. I want to talk to you a little bit about if you're thinking about putting your home on market in the upcoming new year, that you may want to consider what we call a pre-home inspection. The market's slowed down quite a bit from the last couple of years and the news that you've been hearing, and no longer are homes just selling the second that they hit the market. We're seeing more expired listings than ever. We're seeing homes sit on the market for much longer than expected. We're seeing more price reductions. And we're seeing sellers have to give more concessions in the negotiation process in order to bring people together to make a deal happen. Now, one of those things that you can get a competitive edge over your other competition, aka other sellers, is a pre-home inspection. A home inspection for a buyer is somewhere between $350 and $550 in our area, depending. And it's one of those things that could really help set your listing apart from other listings. This will help buyers know what they're getting into before they make an offer on your property. That can not only be a financial relief, but a good peace of mind when they submit their offer to you. And we are playing an emotional game here, and we want to make sure that our potential buyers feel good about making us good, strong offers on our home so that we can ultimately get your home sold. The last thing you want is to be on the market forever and ever and ever. Then the public starts assuming that things are wrong with your property, and the offers that you do get in, if any, are usually lowball, usually from some investor somewhere that wants to cut some sort of deal for themselves and take all your equity. You don't want that. What you want is your home to sell relatively quickly, and you want to make sure that you do the things that you can do to get that competitive edge over your competition in order to make sure that that is you. That way you're not dealing with these lowball offers and these people trying to ultimately steal your home away from you, and that you can ultimately sell not only at a high equity and value, but to a good family that's going to really love and cherish your home. Next, we're going to want to explore our financing options. Okay, now this is another one of those things where you want to make sure that you do the work ahead of time. A little bit of knowledge here goes an absolute long way. I work with so many clients, in fact, the vast majority of them that know absolutely nothing about the lending process, and To be honest, I know a lot of realtors who know absolutely nothing about the lending process. Now, a lot of that has to do with legal liability. Everyone wants us to stay in our own lane, but I find that my clients end up being the most satisfied, comfortable, and confident when they're well informed of their mortgage options so that they're ultimately picking the right product for them. Now, we have things, especially in today's interest rate, you want to be creative. We have things like government-backed loans. These are FHA, VA type loans, anything backed by Freddie Mae or Freddie Mac. Excellent government-backed loans, excellent options for those of you out there that want to make sure you have a low down payment and a very secure loan. We also have various conventional loan products with a myriad of different down payment options with flexible interest rates depending on how we put the deal into the system, depending on how we write up the numbers, so that ultimately we are curating, if you will, a perfect targeted loan product for you. Another thing that you want to look into with today's high interest rates is ARMs. These were the big taboo things of the Great Recession, but today they're making a lot more sense from people because a lot of my clients and peers are betting that interest rates are going to come down over the next year or two. So they're getting to 3-2-1 ARM products that lower the interest rate temporarily, and then the interest rate goes up and up over time depending on the specific product that they buy. But the idea is that they're going to pay a lower interest rate now, and then by the time that interest rate bumps up, they're betting that the market interest rates are going to come down, then they're going to refinance into that lower rate. These are the type of strategies that people are using today in order to get into homes that would otherwise make it unaffordable for them. Just keep in mind, right now, the average interest rate in Washington State is 6.9% for a 30-year fixed rate. This is more than double interest rates from just 2 years ago. This has a massive effect on your overall monthly payment and your affordability. So you want to make sure that we're doing clever things in order to mitigate your interest rate as much as possible, and dovetail that with being familiar with as many mortgage products as absolutely possible so that we can, in combination, get that rate down and therefore get your payment down so that we can get you into the right home for you. So more on buying down your interest rate. Now, technically, there's no maximum amount that you can buy down your interest rate. But what we typically see is usually about 4%. This has a lot to do with lender limitations and rules and regulations around that process, where only so many seller concessions or seller credits can actually go towards closing costs themselves. So it's usually capped about 4%. But even buying down your interest rate a point or two, or asking the seller to buy your interest rate a point or two, taking advantage of our slower market, is an excellent strategy in order to get a better, more affordable payment. We're closing homes every single day doing strategies like this, combining ARM products with seller concessions in order to buy down interest rates, and we're tackling this problem at both ends at the same time, which can be the absolute difference of you getting into your dream home and or a step-up home that you ultimately don't want to be in, that you plan on fully moving out in a few years. Now, there's nothing wrong with a step-up home, but if you wanted your dream home, we want to make sure that we are gathering our resources and we're doing everything we can to potentially make that possible. Now, what you want to keep in mind is you want to make sure that you understand that you got to negotiate effectively. Now, what I mean by that is negotiating a home purchase is so much more than just the purchase price. You want to be fully prepared to negotiate closing costs, various repairs, any appraisal items that come up, personal property. I once sold a home to a couple who had a lot of money, let's just say, and they were buying their dream farmstead type property. Now, these people weren't farmers at all, but they loved the aesthetic and the lifestyle, and they had the money to do it, so they did. Now, when we showed them the house, they loved absolutely everything about the property, and they wanted it, all of it, including the dog. That's right, I wrote up a dog in a home purchase contract, and for some reason, the sellers took it. They sold everything, the furniture, the barn, the hay, and the dog to my clients, and ultimately both people were very, very happy. Now, for me, that's not something I could ever do, but let's just say real estate can be an absolute wild game. Just remember, this process is very fluid and there's a lot of things that need to be negotiated, and it's just more than home price. It just is. You need to keep that in mind and save some meat on the bone for some of these items later down the road. If you're so aggressive on price in the beginning, a lot of times you take so much of the seller's net, there is no more room to negotiate anything else. For those of you relocating, this can be problematic because if things need to be repaired and the seller has no more money to hire repairmen to fix the items, then we're really in a bind. So just make sure that we go through this process looking for win-win scenarios, make sure we got a clear picture of the items that we need to negotiate, and that we're being very strategic about what we ask for, when, where, how, and how much, so that we're ultimately doing good business. Okay, second to last, you're going to want to take some time to understand some of the legal aspects of this process. You may want to consult a real estate attorney to understand the ins and outs of real estate law here in Washington State, because it's going to be different than whatever state you're relocating from. In Washington State, our real estate purchase and sale contract is called Form 21. You may want to have an attorney go over that with you so that you can kind of get familiar with the items on it, ask any questions, so that way when you're ready to make offers, you can be quick and snappy with it and not have to go over every single item in order to understand it, because time could be the absolute difference between a deal being made and one being lost. Now, your agent can walk you through most of these items, especially if they're simple in nature, directly pertaining to the form itself. But any complicated questions about law or contracts in general, you're going to definitely want to consult an attorney, because ultimately that's outside the scope of our practice. But knowledge is power. The more familiarity you have with the contract and the process in general of buying and selling homes, the more ready you're going to be willing, the more confident you're going to be when it comes to making offers and going after the properties that you want. Okay, so the last thing for you guys is you're going to want to plan for the future. Now, this may be geared towards you investors out there, but all of you need to keep in mind that real estate tends to be the #1 asset most people own in their entire lifetime. So you want to make sure that the property that you're buying aligns with your long-term goals. If you plan on being in Spokane only for a few years just to move somewhere else, you may want to look at a property that has some potential Airbnb or rental value to you, and or may have some quick appreciation so you're not backwards when it comes to selling it on the back end. It's these sort of details that are going to matter for you in your specific situation. You may want to look into our planned infrastructure and developments that are coming online. An example would be like Mead Works. Mead Works is a development happening in the northern Spokane territory in the Mead area by Costco. It's going to be over 300 acres and ultimately like something like 1,400 living units. It's massive and a good area to boot. So it's one of those things that you may want to look into depending on what your timelines are, so that you can be one of the very first to kind of go into that area and maybe grab a great parcel ahead of time. So generally here in Washington, we're pretty spoiled. We've had a great real estate market over time with steady appreciation, depending on various fluctuations within the market, but those tend to be temporary with an overall upward trend. In fact, in the Spokane area itself, over the last 10 years, real estate has seen 147.9% appreciation over the last 10 years. That can make it an excellent investment opportunity with an average of 9.51% increase in value year over year over the last 10 years. Resources like neighborhoodscout.com can really help you look into this data so that we can make sure that we're planning our buy in the right location for you, depending on what your overall goals are. Now, a lot of potential clients want to ask me is, why is real estate so expensive in Spokane, especially if they looked a few years ago and they're looking now? Look, what happened was real estate here in Spokane, for whatever reason, we were one of the top 10 hottest markets in the entire nation. I mean, real estate literally caught on fire and prices freaking skyrocketed. We saw an unprecedented population boom and an influx of people moving over to Spokane due to the pandemic. This really squeezed our housing market to the breaking point. Some homes even saw up to a 60% appreciation in 2 years. Sadly, a lot of people just saw their dream home slip away from them and became totally out of reach. Pre-pandemic, your average home price in Spokane was anywhere between the low 300s and the high 200s, and now we're looking at the high 300s to low 400s depending on the time of year and the current market conditions. Now, in reality, Spokane is still a super hot market. We're still seeing appreciation, and if you look at our average building permits being issued by the city versus new home formations, this is a deficit that's going to only exacerbate our supply and demand issue, continuing almost a guarantee in home price increases over time. In fact, at the rate they're currently issuing payments, it's going to take us 10 years to catch up to demand of today, let alone in the demand of 10 years from now. All this paints a picture and basically indicates that housing prices in Spokane are only going to continue to rise over time. So don't be the one sitting on the sideline, kicking the can down the road, waiting for the market to crash. It's just not going to happen. Instead, be proactive, save aggressively, and do what it takes to fulfill your dream of home ownership. I'm rooting for you. You can do it. I help clients and new home buyers every single day relocate and move into homes in Spokane. You got to get strategic. You got to be serious. You got to be somewhat aggressive, but it is possible. Make sure you act before it's too late. If you like what you saw today, we are living in Spokane. My name is Adam Clark. If you could please help a growing channel out and give us a sub and hit that bell notification. And I just want you guys to know that my team and I, we get calls, texts, emails, and messages every single day from people just like you who are looking to relocate over here to Spokane. If you just want to reach out to us and give us a call, we'll be sure to take your inquiry and take care of you ASAP. We are relocation experts and we help you everything A to Z and help you fulfill your dream of home ownership and moving to the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Until next time, guys, see you later.